Yeah, buddy. And welcome back, everybody. So today's segment is going to be on an HG-P407 4-stroke Toyan methanol motor. I ordered this thing a while back, and I had some ups and downs with collecting parts for it and trying to figure out a transmission, because being it's a nitro motor, you can't reverse the nitro motor, and being it's a 4-stroke, it's impossible to reverse it. They don't like running backwards. So anyways, I want to go over some outer things of the truck real quick with you. You can see I got rid of that stupid cap, and I kind of made like a fairing wing back there. And how I did that was I took the cap that was normally here, put a piece of 3/4 inch tape over it, and then cut it. Okay, and I brought the tape back kind of at an angle of how long I wanted it to be. So I cut the section out, and then I just shaved off a little piece, about maybe 3/16 of an inch on here, and then capped it over it and glued it on. And you can see it's a lot better than that boring looking cap that they've had on these things forever. And I also put the vents inside the window and made a little filler panel for the bottom and just super glued it on, because if it glues right on the back side of this opening on the inside of the fairing here. So I thought it was something different, something pretty cool, other than a roll bar, whatnots. Everybody does things different with them. They put a rock cage roll bar, they paint the caps different colors and do the windows up, cut the windows out. I just said I'm gonna do something wild with it, and that's what I did. So another thing I wanted to go over with, my buddy there, the scale trail guy, he hooked me up with a frame, HG-P407 frame, and some tires and stuff, which was wicked cool of him. I appreciate that. Kudos to you, man. But one thing I noticed when I got the tires, because he sent me some crawler tires too, that's what I wanted to put on this, and but these tires are super soft. I couldn't believe this when I got these things. I was like, wow, this is like, maybe they heard our cries there and started making the tires out of a super soft rubber. I mean, unless this is a one-off thing, I don't know. I noticed some design changes in these things as I went along. The earlier ones, inside the pinion that comes out for the drive shaft to connect on, they're round and have a hole right through them. And then I noticed the later ones have just a flat spot ground on it, like the Bruiser had, and you just put a set screw. You don't put the set pin in them. And another thing I noticed too, the outer axles are like stainless or chrome or something on these things, chrome plated, or they're bright metal. They look like stainless. Where the other ones were like a black heat treated, and they always broke. But so anyways, I made the hood open on this thing because you know where I was going to go with it. I was going to put a 4-stroke motor in it. So to unleash it, I had to make a little hood latch. You see it there? And I made a little prop rod here, and I put a little piece of silicone there just to kind of hold everything in place. Now, I made a piece of brake tubing here out of 3/16 tubing, just flattened the edges and kind of made it come up around. Now this is the all metal grill. As you can see, this got, it's got an opening in there, because that was one of my mandatory things, because I needed airflow through there if I was going to put the, put the motor in there. So I want to kind of put my light down in there, and you'll be able to see it's those metal grills are open all the way through, and they're like a carbon copy of the Tamiya. You can see there they have the Toyota boss there, so you can put the emblems on it. But as far as the inside goes, you can see I got the motor set in there, I got the transmission set in there, and it was, you know, it was challenging to do it, but I I, I had like 6 or 7 different transmission choices, and I chose one because I thought it would work, but it ended up being really complicated. Because there's a couple of trannies out there that have the forward reverse for your nitro cars, and as you can see, nice thing about that is you can just open it up a little bit, and you know that's the look of it right there. Get in there to the motor. Now I don't have the motor mounted in permanently yet, because I got to make a couple of mounts through here so I can slide it back and forth in case I want to change teeth on the clutch. And if you look inside, the clutch is just bolted directly to the flywheel, because in my hurry to order this thing, I didn't realize they had a clutch that was an adapted to fit this motor. So I ordered that today. It was like $18 for the flywheel and the little pilot shaft for it. But so the transmission I use was off the Revo 3.3, because it's a four-wheel drive transmission, and you know, so you got your front shafts, back shafts, and I bought the Revo drive shafts too, because they're super heavy duty. And like I say, let me get the body off of it here, and I'll get back here real quick, and give me 2 seconds. Okay, I got the camera in my hand now, so I'm a little wiggly here. But this is, you see the size of that drive shaft. They're huge, and I kind of had to use the back one because they have the Traxxas, they changed their brake thing, their brake disc. It's got 2 pins in the drive shaft that mount inside the brake rotor itself. But I made a couple of brackets for the transmission to kind of set in there. The front is in the drive shaft off the old 2.5 T-Max, because it was smaller around and I needed the room to fit under that flywheel right there. There's plenty of room there, just the angle of the camera. It's, you know, because this thing's going to move around, you know, when you're and when you're bouncing up and down on the thing, you know, that drive shaft, watch the drive shaft in there. That's how they collapses, you see, and everything moves. But so I made 2 brackets out of aluminum here and there to kind of set it in. You can see I got one spacer nut over here, and I don't have one over here yet, because I'm still toying with it, because I don't know how wide that clutch bell is going to be that they send me, and the pilot shaft, the flywheel, I don't know how wide it's going to be. So I'm assuming that it shouldn't be any wider than that. And what I did, I took the little screws out of this, and this slides back and forth this way, and I'm going to put spacers in the back here. I'll probably use like 3/16 brake tubing or something, and push that outward to get me hooked up to my my clutch bell. So everything else is basically HG-P407. This is a fuel tank that they send you. I was going to do a review on this motor, and I'll start it up for you in a minute here. I was going to do a review on this thing, but there's so many out there online right now. When you get the motor, it comes in a nice little box with foam and all that, and you know, it comes with the fuel tank hoses, and well, no, it don't come with a fuel tank. That's the accessory kit. This is your accessory kit here. The motor comes with fan blades, a starter motor, your belts, and a bag of screws to assemble the starter motor. Now, one important thing, okay, very important, all right? This is a wicked cool little motor. I tell you, it's just, it's amazing, and it fits perfect in this truck. On the starter, Loctite this, because there's 2 of these. One there, and one there. Loctite those, because just trying to start the thing, it ends up spinning the nuts out, and then you get like this, like wound like that when you get near it. It just rips your finger out when when you're like trying to figure out what's making the noise when it's turning. It'll spin on the shaft. But so I set the thing in on where the steering mounts would be on that side, but you know, either side. I just put a couple of bolts through there, and when you line things up, it'll actually go through the frame back here too. I just got to make a hole higher. I don't mind drilling holes in these frames because that's what it's all about. But so they give you a little apparatus here to, you know, a power reducer for your glow plug. Okay, and you know, they got the T plugs on them, and then they got your start, you know, apparatus there. You can hook it up, and you can run 2 to 3 cell lipos to fire it up, and then they give you the little servo tester thing here. Is what I got. You know, instead of a button, you just turn it up, and it you know, the more you turn it, the faster it you know, it turns the motor. And so I'm going to try to hook them two together, because you can run 3 cell on the glow plug too if you need to fire it up, and 3 cell actually works better. But so I'm going to hook them together, so it'll be a one quick, maybe a push button start, you know what I mean, instead of having to turn this thing all the time. And I actually stuck it back here because I was knocking it out of the way all the time and everything else. But let's let me show you how easy it is to fire this bugger up. I'm just going to set these over here for now, because I know you're going to want to see and hear and enjoy this thing running. Has a little tiny muffler over here, which I'm going to put an exhaust system on. It's funny, I had made a muffler years and years ago for my Bruiser when I had made that a nitro setup, and I still have it. I don't know what it's going to do for the power in this thing. I don't know if it's going to knock it down or, you know, whatever, but it's worth a try. So now I'm telling you, it's thing's really hard to start, guys. Not. I'm gonna turn it this way and fire it up. Very consistent idle. There's the muffler back there. Real quiet, very quiet. But like I say, there's a lot of things to consider when you're doing it. You got to do a lot of hand building stuff, but getting the motor running is the least of your worries. It fires right up, and it fired like that right out of the box. Because they kind of they're really good company. I got it from Sterling Engines, and like I say, everybody's done reviews on them, but the quality is phenomenal on these things. And I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He sent me a photo of this, and you know, because they're all over the place on sale. And he goes, he put in the photo just when I was, you know, turning away from these nitro motors. And, you know, nitros are messy. They got, you know, they stink. They, you know, you smell like nitro fuel and all that. They got, you know, oil drips all over everything. And, you know, but once they come out with this, it was like, this, if they would have had, this was what I wanted 25 years ago, 30 years ago when I was doing my Bruisers back in the 80s. And, you know, that was the look I was looking for. And of course that technology wasn't there, but there it is. Now it's here, and you can really get to a nice scale setup. And like I say, one of the things I considered when I did this was if anybody is familiar with the Traxxas, you know, T-Max and the Revo and all that, the transmission's turned around backwards, okay? And then the motor's setting in the back. Now, my Nitro Bruiser, which I have there, you can see, I set the motor like in the back, because I used the T-Max plate on the thing and just mounted it to the Bruiser frame, you see. So the motor's back here, the transmission's here, and then I just ran everything out, and of course all your servos are up front. And I wanted like real scale realism with this one. So one thing I noticed when I thought I'll just buy the transmission, I'll put that in the front and everything else. Now it's a forward and reverse, okay? The way they built these transmissions, reverse is very weak in these Traxxas transmissions, so you can't be pounding on them, and it's like, I don't know if it's, I know the T-Max was reverse, 2-speed reverse, forward and reverse in my old one, but I don't know if these are. So now, to get over that little problem, when you turn it around this way, now the axles are going to go backwards, okay? But the cool thing is about the HG-P407, the ring gears are backwards on them. And so if you look at all your other axles out there, okay, and now this motor turns counterclockwise, okay, which is going to turn this counterclockwise, which is going to turn this forward. Now when you're looking at the rear ends, okay, they go clockwise, you know. If you look at the axles, watch the drive shaft, when I move this thing, you'll see, there you go, I'm right there. When I turn this thing forward, it goes counterclockwise, see? Now, if you put like an AR, you know, the 44 D44s, or you know, any of the other axles up underneath there, they all turn the other way, okay? Every one of them does, and this is the only one that I knew of that did that. So there was a guy, I think he works for Toyan. He did the same thing with a HG-P407, and I noticed when he took off, it was like, oh, the axles are turned a different way. But the cool thing about these axles, you can flip them upside down if you want, because there's nothing but an axle tube there that crimps in between a little clamp under your spring, a little wedge, and your leaf spring pot on the bottom. So if you had to, and I thought, well, I'll just use these, I'll just flip them upside down, but I didn't have to, because they already go in that direction. So, but there it is, guys. It's, you know, it's going and going and going. I want to get my clutch in and finish setting up things permanently in a permanent manner, and get my exhaust system on it, and figure out my one battery start. You know, I'd like to do something like the T-Max. They had the easy starts, you know. You just went up, plugged it in, fired it up, and off you went. That's what I'm looking to do. I don't really want to carry a battery on board on this thing. Another thing I noticed too, the weight in the front end of this thing is pretty heavy. You know, it softens these springs right up, and then by the time you get this this metal grill on there, I mean, the weight up front is it's really heavy. You know, so it's like, you know, it bounces around like a real scale truck does. So, you know, it does the rock too, you know, because it's got a lot of weight on the springs. And I kind of wonder if that was the problem all along with these things, was the springs are a little too stiff, and the bodies were a little too light, and you know, the front ends and stuff. But anywho, like I say, any questions, comments, feel free to hit me up. I'm still on the build, but I wanted to give you guys a sneak preview of what it looked like. And you want to know how to, like, what I did with the hood, I can explain that to you. Use brake tubing and just made a hinge for the hood, and a little piece of metal for the latch. And I really don't have any schematics. I kind of pulled it out of my rectum and just made it by hand. And like I say, with the cap on the back, if you want to do that to your ride, like I say, 3/4 inch tape, and just turn it. So, and then just cut it, and then just shave this off and glue it right on the back, and just paint it black, red, green, whatever color you want. So anyway, this is Denny. You know, I'm signing out. So, adios, man. Have a good one.